Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed.
Hear me?
You are listening to the Tales of Music and Film podcast, and ladies and gentlemen, I am beyond excited for this because I'm about to do my first ever big interview on the podcast. As you know, back in my earlier episodes, I had guests on who were classmates of mine over at Eastern University, and my best friend Jonathan's been on the show a couple of times. And for the very first time, I have another friend of mine who's making a guest appearance on this, and we just worked on something really cool just about a month ago. And I actually worked with her before, and we have worked together making a couple of mini movies because she's trying to raise more awareness about low budget and community filmmaking. And the two films that we've worked on together, the first one was a couple years ago that was called Unlocked, and the one we just worked on last month is a brand new picture called A Mother's Sacrifice. And for both projects, she had me be the boom mic operator. And I gotta tell you, it was an absolute thrill getting to work on these projects. It's always an honor getting to work with this amazing human being. And I'd like to introduce...
Hi, I'm Mary Davis, or Mary Katlin Davis.
Hey, it's nice to have you on, seriously.
Well, thank you for having me. This is going to be fun. This is exciting.
Yeah, I know. The last few days leading up to this, I've just been so excited. And this woman is a professional photographer as well. And fun fact, she did my senior pictures for high school and college.
Yeah, we're actually in my studio right now recording it.
Yeah, I know. It's so cool. Yeah, we're in your little studio recording this. So very fitting for this to be the spot. So in this recording, I'm going to be asking her a series of questions about the process of writing her screenplay, just getting everything ready to make A Mother's Sacrifice. And what can you tell us right now? Well, obviously, we can't reveal too much right now about the movie, but as I believe you told me before we started recording that you're waiting on the composer to finish the soundtrack, correct?
Yes, so right now the film file is in New York with Jake, that's his name, who's doing the music. And he said sometime next week I'm going to be getting time codes where I can watch the clips, make sure that the music and pacing is matching and that I like it. And if I like it, then it's kind of like a concrete sort of thing.
Okay, that's cool. And what absolutely blew my mind, do you know his full name?
Oh, Jake, let me see. I actually have it right here.
So while she looks the name up right quick, so this composer, I actually did not know this, but while we were filming A Mother's Sacrifice, Katlin revealed to me that this man helped with the soundtrack for the hit TV show The Boys,
yes,
which just finished airing its 4th season.
Yes, so Jake Weston.
Jake Weston.
Yes.
Okay, I had no idea. The minute you told me that, I was like, no way, you got someone like that?
I know. He honestly, he reached out to me.
Okay.
Wanting to be on the project because he saw my Seed and Spark account, which is the campaign where I raise the funds for the crowdfunding for the film. And he liked the premise, he liked the overall vibe and said, hey, can I be on this team? And I said, yeah. Absolutely, right. I love The Boys. So.
Yeah, I know. I heard a lot of good stuff about the 4th season. I'll have to give it a watch at some point. So as you know, we just discussed that the soundtrack's being made right now. And how goes the editing for it?
The editing, honestly, there was a couple parts that were a little bit harder to edit than others, only because, of course, you were on the set with me. There was some issues that arose, but
which we'll get into.
Yeah, we'll get into those. We got over those hurdles. Really, though, it was pretty seamless. I would say the hardest part was matching the audio to the video.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, what she is referring to is kind of like ad-libbing.
Yes.
And I had to do something like that during my years at Eastern University. Senior year in my Production 3 class, actually no, it's Production 4. the production 4 class, what we had to do was, one of the projects that my teacher assigned us, we had to film a scene. It could have been anything. We had to take out the natural audio from that, and we had to have the actors go into a recording studio and re-record the lines. And then we had to match that audio with the actors' mouth movements from the footage that we shot. And that was, I did not do so hot on the project. Halfway through it, I just said, screw it. I just did the best I could. But
it's time. People don't realize how time consuming it is.
Yeah, it's so difficult, man. I have way more respect now for like the actual people who work on this stuff in the actual film industry. Like, I had no idea just how difficult it is. Like, you have to see it for yourself to understand.
Right, and that's kind of why you have that clacker on set, because if it wasn't for that clacker, then I would have been totally lost. Like, I would have just been like, I don't even know where I'm at, because the audio and the video were recorded separately. And so, because you had the boom with the audio, I had the camera with no audio, so syncing those up together was probably the most challenging, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you could give us a percentage, how much of the film do you think is done right now, like percentage-wise, if you had to take a guess?
Oh, I would say it's like 90% done.
90%?
We're pretty much just waiting on music, and then I have a couple of film titles to finish up, and then it's ready for a premiere, yeah.
Oh man, that is so exciting. And
I
ladies
know.
and gentlemen, when I came into the studio, I saw the poster for this as well. I cannot express to you like how cool the poster is. Like, I part of me is wanting a copy of that. So
I
bad.
can definitely do that for you, for sure.
Oh yeah, I want one so bad. Like,
yeah. Maybe I can have a few like there at the premiere if people want to take one or something.
Oh,
like
I
a mini, yeah.
Oh, you should have like I honestly think you should get like a maybe like a set of like 8x10s.
Yes, and
like
then they can
small
have the
ones.
actors sign
They can
up.
have the actors sign them,
Yes.
because that's what they do at Comic-Cons that I go to.
We should do that. I'll do
Yeah.
that. I will make sure if you guys show up for the premiere, we'll do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so now that we've talked about the movie a little bit, let's get into the questions here for a second. Here's the big one I've been wanting to ask you. So,
hopefully I can answer it.
yeah, you're good. So where did the idea for this project come from?
Okay, it's a funny story. So I've been doing screenwriting for a couple of years now, and there was a moment where I was not writing, and I thought I need to keep practicing and just make sure that I'm keeping up with my technique and everything. And so it just started off as a small exercise, and I thought, I'll just write about witches. Why not, And then something that turned out to be an exercise snowballed into an actual screenplay, and that's kind of how it started.
Okay, so you were just taking, I'll just randomly write down this story,
just like
and then it started
letting my thoughts
forming
come out. Yeah.
into something else.
I will say a little bit of inspiration between the story a little bit as I was writing was inspired by how there was a lot of talk on the news with generation, what would you call it, like power struggle?
Yeah.
Where millennials and Gen Zers are having trouble finding places in the workforce, and then you have like the older generation not letting go of their positions, and so it's kind of like this struggle, I guess, in society a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to play symbolically with the two tales of the, witches that.
Oh sure, because like the witches and stuff is kind of like a mythology kind of thing.
Like a metaphor, yes.
Metaphor.
Like the old and new, and then will they can the older generation allow trust for the new generation to rule the country,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
that makes a lot of sense. And so, yeah, that's really cool. And so what makes this story that you have put together so interesting?
I think that it deals with real world problems, but in a supernatural way. We see themes of family betrayal in the movie. We see themes of the generational power struggles. We see innocence loss. We also see a little bit of, in Hollywood, if you're over the age of 26, it's kind of like, well, now you got to play the role of mom or grandma. You can't really play like the heroine or the hero.
Sure.
You have to be young and beautiful. And I kind of wanted to break that boundary where I feel like no matter what age we are, we all have a story to share. And so I really wanted to make sure that all my actors were 30 and above.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So I think that makes it interesting that I used older actors.
Yeah, I totally get that, and that makes a lot of sense. It's like when an actor reaches like a certain age, it's kind of like, oh well, like the next person's waiting in line, to replace you. Like, who's the next gorgeous person?
Yes. Well,
definitely.
It's just like, James Bond. After a certain age, it's like, okay, we got to find the new James Bond or the new Indiana Jones or, it's like, so I just think no matter what age we are, we all have stories. I think we should record those stories because, like me, I'm in my 30s, but I'm not just a mom or a wife. There's other parts of me,
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the other half, like, when you said earlier about, it's like once you reach like a certain age, you don't really have much of a choice. You have to start playing like older people roles, like being a mom. But another part we noticed is there's a lot of instances, a lot of people have actually been complaining about this. They don't like that Hollywood keeps hiring like midway 20s actors to play high schoolers.
Yeah.
Like one of the prime examples, I saw this not too long ago, is that people did not agree with the actors chosen for the Ethiopia show, or was Zendaya? I can't pronounce it correctly. It's like
Euphoria?
Euphoria, yes, that's it. Because most of the actors in that are like 25 to like 28 years of age, and these people are playing high schoolers who are like 16, 17. These people are like a decade older than that. And a lot of people were complaining, like, you should have hired people who are closer to that age or something.
Right, like maybe, yeah. I think too, it's like, I think there's some actors like, who might be in their 60s. Like one of my favorite movies right now is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And that's a cast full of older people as well, older actors. And it was, a phenomenon. It was a success, huge hit.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So yeah, there's like two sides. There's two sides
to the coin, yeah.
Two sides of that coin. Yeah, exactly. And so I think you may have already answered this a little bit, but is there anything you want to accomplish with this film?
Yes, I would like to win awards with it. I'm going to enter it in a bunch of film festivals. I do have 2 invitations right now to, one is in Nashville, Tennessee for the Women's Filmmaker Film Fest, and then there's another one that features women filmmakers at LA. And I have 2 personal invitations to enter A Mother's Sacrifice in.
Okay.
So that's kind of exciting.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, in contests, like, for me, just the simple feeling of entering it in feels really good. Because, little side note here, I actually have a cousin right now. Her name is Julia, and she wrote her own book.
Oh,
called
good for her.
Called The Right Raven, and
nice.
It's like, oh man, you would love it.
I probably would. It's on the title already. It makes me I like the title.
Yeah,
I probably like the book too.
And she needed proofreaders, and she was looking for people like, she was trying to find strangers. Like, she didn't really ask like any family members.
Like a diverse group who could be non-biased.
Non-biased, because when you're related to them, obviously you'd be like, oh yeah, I loved it. Because you're related, therefore it's gonna be a little bit of you. It's gonna be like, you're gonna say it's good no matter what.
Yeah.
But so I actually volunteered to proofread her book, and I had to have the mindset throughout the whole reading. Okay, Julia's a complete stranger.
Yes.
I don't know her at all.
Yeah.
I just met her the other day or something. And by the time I finished that book, I was like, this is extremely award worthy.
That's awesome.
And it was kind of like a Lord of the Rings piece a little bit. And I'm not really a fan of that genre. And by the end of it, I was like, dude, that was amazing. And she's entered the book into a couple of contests, but unfortunately she didn't have much luck with them. She entered it into another one right now, and I'm just fingers crossed that she wins something.
That's all. You just have to keep doing it, because like even in my photography, it took me years to even get platinum award winning, and I mean years. And I was just like after a while, you start to get in that mindset like, am I worthy enough? But you just have to tell yourself, I am worthy enough. Eventually, there's going to be a judge out there, somebody who sees the potential in you and is going to, highlight you. And that's what I'm kind of hoping out of these film festivals is it gets my name out there. It gets some other people's name out there, like you, Brian K. Osborne, some of the actresses. Like, I would love it if we won Best Audio or Best Costume or, something that's not even, like, in my field, just to help the people around me, support them.
Yeah, that anything is possible.
Yes.
I mean, and...
I want that so bad for us.
Yeah, I know. That's great. Yeah, definitely. So now that we just finished talking about the film festivals and everything and what you're wanting to accomplish with this. Now you did mention that this was just a little brainstorm idea you had, so that makes you wonder. So really, were there any inspirations that you took to make this story, or was it all just from scratch?
It was all from scratch, and I would say if I had to say if there was any inspiration, it would just be again looking at societal. What would you call it? I guess you'd call it like society struggles with the whole generational gap type thing.
Yeah.
That was kind of inspiring a little bit. But other than that, witches weren't even really a trend at the time. So I think it was more like Game of Thrones, Lord of Rings, like more fantasy,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't know, it's weird, like, witch stuff, it has to really, the only thing that I can think of right now that's come out recently that was witch-related was Hocus Pocus 2.
Oh yeah, that was a couple of years back even, yeah.
But that's really about it, and I think, I might be wrong, but before that, the only other witch film I can think of was The Witch from 2015.
Yeah. And that's a great film too, I love that film.
Yeah, because I remember I told you a couple of times, like, when you were showing me some of the footage that you shot, so little side note, folks, we filmed this outside of our hometown, out in the country.
Yeah.
We were filming in this woods area. And I remember when Katlin was showing me some of the stuff that she filmed, and I was getting the Wish vibes like throughout the entire thing, especially the finale we shot. Like, it literally felt like we were filming the end of the Witch. A little bit,
It kind of does with that whole that bonfire scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When I was writing the screenplay, honestly, it was just again doing the exercise, but also I was always taught in school, in film school, that you need to write within your budget. And so my budget was like $0. So I thought, where could I even and I thought of my parents' property, which is where we filmed out in the woods. And I was like, well, that costs nothing to film out. And then I was like, well, what could I talk about? Oh, witches could be in the woods. And then that just kind of how it came to be,
Oh, yeah, definitely. I got a little metaphor for you. It's funny you say that. So, a little side note, this has nothing to do with the movie, but it's okay. Just a few days ago, I built myself my own Lego set, if you will. It's called a mock, if you will.
Okay.
Because I saw some YouTubers who are big Lego collectors who were building their own scenes.
Oh, wow.
And my cousin Alex, big Lego collector as well, he was giving me a tour of his new house not too long ago, and he showed me his mock that he built.
Yeah.
So then that inspired me, you know what? I want to take a try at this. So I didn't go out and buy a bunch of stuff. I used what was available to me.
Yeah.
And because I didn't want to waste all that money on stuff that I might only use once. So what I built was, have you watched Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets?
Oh, I've watched and read the book, so
okay.
Yes.
I grew up on the movies. I was alive when every single one came out, so I literally grew up with all the movies. And the scene, so Chamber of Secrets was my favorite Harry Potter film when I was a little kid. One of the main reasons for that was the flying car.
Oh, yeah, that's a great scene, yeah.
Yeah. And the scene that I recreated was the scene of the car rolling in to save Harry and Ron from the spiders.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I had built the woods and everything. So one of the problems I didn't have any brown pieces to make the trees. I had to use all green pieces. And they were in the woods. But I remembered in the first two films, the Forbidden Forest was a lot more scary. And if you noticed, there was this mist on the ground when they walked in, and it made the ground look black. So what I did was I made the entire ground with all my black pieces. There you go.
Yeah.
And then I built all the trees just using my green pieces, and I got the car in there, but there was something missing. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Then I was at work at Walmart one day. We had a new section of brand new Lego sets that had just been released. One of them was a brand new spider set. It had the giant Harrigan spider.
Yeah.
And it had two small spiders with it. And it had Harry and Ron wearing the outfits from that scene. The minute I saw that, I bought it, took it home, I added it to the mock, and it was finished. That's what it needed. and it turned out perfectly. That's all I bought. Everything else I just used from my inventory.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel like when you're doing projects like this, like short films, or even if you're in college doing a student film, you just have to use what's available to you and write with what you have access to.
Yeah.
Because in the reality, there's not going to be people, you can crowdfund for a short film, but there's not going to be investors for a short film because they won't get anything out of it.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And that comment really hits home for me because during my 2 years at Eastern, especially, like we had an equipment room where we could go in and tell the guy, okay, I need this and this and this. That they would give us the equipment, but we had to pick where to film. And when it was time, so we have 4 production classes, productions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And when you get to 4, the final project is you have to make your own movie.
Yep.
And when I wrote the screenplay for mine, I decided to have it take place. It was about a college student with autism. Her first day at the school, my friend Leah Polinsky, I think my good friend Leah played the main girl for that story that I wrote. When I made the screenplay, I'm thinking, okay, I got to use what's available to me. I'm on a college campus. Yep. How about I make a story about a student first day who's on the spectrum, is having a hard time trying to connect with people, and that's how it blossomed.
Yeah. And you can, I think too, for like any young filmmakers who might be listening to this podcast, with the equipment that you have, maybe switch up angles. Shoot from a point of view perspective versus like maybe an aerial perspective, and you can really use different shots and scenes to sell your point of view or your story.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And lighting, things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point, because what you're making me think of is like so much can be said with no audio or like any like words.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's the whole goal of. I mean, isn't that how filmmaking started with silent films?
Yeah, exactly. Like you would just see like you would see that the actors act the scene out, then there would be a black like box that would show up with the text.
Yeah, because they had they couldn't figure out the audio part yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like that's the whole point. Film is a medium of storytelling. So dialogue just further enhances storytelling, but overall, the moving pictures should tell the story too. Your action.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A great example I could think of. Excuse me. I actually watched a guy break down a scene from Tobey Maguire, the Spider-Man trilogy. Mm-hmm. And Spider-Man 2, there was this really brilliant scene of Peter talking with MJ, and like the camera tells a story. You could literally mute the audio and you could tell what's going on just by the camera movements. Like it closes in on them, they almost connected, but then Peter backs away at the last second, and the camera zooms back out into a wide, showing you, okay, there is a drift between these two.
Well, one of your favorite films, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
That opening sequence, there's no dialogue.
Yeah, there's none.
And it's phenomenal. It's like classic opener now. Like, I mean, people know that scene. It's in Disney World even. You can go visit and watch the show, and...
Like, that opening sequence, it's just Indy and his helpers walking through the jungle with just the music playing.
Yeah.
And you just see the text showing you the actors' names and everything.
And like, he has the sand and he's, that's the perfect example of storytelling without dialogue.
Yeah, and like when we see Indy for the very first time, it's not dialogue that we learn about him, it's an action. He takes his whip out and snatches the gun out of that dude's hand, and he walks out of the shadow, and then we see him in all of his glory. It's like it shows you we learned something from him right then and there through an action.
Action, like who he, yeah, because I would say like even in everyday life, like we all have our quirks.
Exactly.
And without like when you don't meet somebody, you can just like observe their quirks and you kind of get to know a little bit about them.
Yeah.
And then when you meet them, maybe it's like the whole puzzle gets put together.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're making me think of, so I remember in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, it opens with a flashback sequence where we see Indy as a young boy. He's like 13 years old, and River Phoenix played young version of him. And he had to work with Harrison Ford trying to get like the mannerisms down and stuff.
Oh yeah, because they had to be,
Yeah, and Harrison Ford actually recommended River Phoenix because they had actually worked together a couple years prior in a film they did where they were father and son.
Yeah.
So River Phoenix had to copy the way Harrison walks, like the way he like looks at stuff, just little things like that, the little quirks like you mentioned.
And like with A Mother's Sacrifice, I kind of had to keep that in mind too when I was choosing the actors.
Yeah.
Because we have one actor who's older and then one that has to play the younger version of her.
Yeah.
So I had to keep that in mind when I was choosing the actors.
Yeah, I know. Like, you see, that's another thing. It's like, you wouldn't believe like the amount of stuff you have to keep in mind when you are casting someone, Like, it can't just be like, it can't be the first person you see. Like, you really have to think about it,
Yeah.
Because there's like a long list of requirements that need to be checked off, and you have to make sure 100% that this person can cover
fulfill
all
the
those
role.
things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. And so the next thing is, we may have already covered this mostly, but are there like any messages at all with this story?
I think there is, but I don't know if I will just say that to focus on the theme is loss of innocence and maybe family betrayal.
Okay.
But I don't want to reveal too much because of the twist ending.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. We have to tread lightly on this. We don't want to give it away for you, but hey, that's a good little. Okay, well, I can say this though.
Yes.
It makes the anticipation like more.
Yeah.
Like more good. And so, why did you decide to give like filmmaking a try in the first place? You're already a professional photographer. I mean, like you could just do that. So like why this as well?
So it's funny. Ever since I was little, I actually wanted to be a director. Especially for music videos. I don't know what it was, but I loved like I would hear a song and then I could visualize the music video to it before even like seeing a music video. But I never had the confidence to pursue that because we live in a small town. It seems like in small towns, art's not really something that people, when you're in school, they strive for you to be. It's like you got to be in science or you got to be in the sports. It's like you can't make a living with art, and so that always was ingrained in my head until I got older. Became a photographer and realized, you can make a living with this, especially now with technology and the internet. And when COVID hit, I decided, I'm going to go back to school and get my master's of fine art, and I did it in filmmaking, and I fell in love with it. Filmmaking is just it's an extension of my photography.
Oh yeah, it definitely is, 100%. That's great. And that was the reason. Like I was already doing a really good job of being like a radio DJ, but the minute I found out that Eastern offered podcasting, like I got into podcasting. Like so my inspiration for wanting to do this show in the first place was that a buddy of mine named Mark Cotto, he had his own podcast called Cotto Cinema.
Oh, cool.
He was a year ahead of me, so it was when I was a junior. It was his senior year, and he invited me on his show over like 30 times.
Wow, that's great.
And we reviewed a lot of movies together. And by the end of it, I was like, okay, I have to do my own show. I'm going to regret it if I don't. So as soon as my senior year started, I literally spent the summer before senior year trying to think of the name and what I wanted it to be about and what I wanted to cover. And I came up with the idea of Tales of Music and Film because those are like the top two things I like talking about.
For sure, you do, yeah.
Aside from because I'm a big history guy too. So, and I was thinking, what are my top three things to talk about? Music, film, and history. Okay, music and film, I can definitely do that. So that's where the idea blossomed to do this show. And I recorded over 62 episodes just in my senior year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
You should feel really proud of yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It was one heck of a journey. I had a great time, and now I've done over 20 episodes now. When I revived my show and everything.
Which I'm glad you're doing the podcast because I think you were great at Eastern doing it, and I'm glad that you have your own now. That's like your own show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great feeling. Like my parents were the big inspiration. Like my mom especially, she kept telling me, like, you gotta get that going again. Don't abandon it. And I was like, you know what, Mom, you're right. I'm gonna do that. So I got all my gear together, and then I just started from scratch. It's kind of crazy. Like my show, there's nothing fancy about this. I just bought 2 very good microphones off Amazon. I'm just using my college laptop with Adobe Audition, and that's it. You know? And I'm just using what's available to me, but I think the product overall is very good.
Well, it's just like, like with my camera, so I have the R5, which can do photography or some 4K cinema. Now it can only do 4K for like maybe 45 minutes max, and that's why I had to rent like the camera I used on set. But still, it's like we use what's available to us, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You never know where it might lead you in the future. Everything's a connection to something bigger.
Oh yeah, I fully agree with that. And so, what do you love about films? Why do you think they're so important, you know? And you and I had talked about this before in the past. I remember you and I had a long conversation in here about film when I came over to do the equipment test before we started shooting. And we had a very good talk. Like, you were telling me how you're more attached now to like foreign films than anything that current Hollywood's making, you know?
Yes, because I feel like right now Hollywood's just they're having a tough time with originality. I feel like they just keep regurgitating like sequel after sequel, and let's just keep writing the same storyline just with different characters. And that's not every Hollywood film, but right now you can tell a lot of people are not quite happy with mainstream media, and I think right now this is the time for indie films again, just like it was in the 70s and it was in the late 40s. Indie filmmaking kind of was coming big again because Hollywood just didn't have the funding for it, and it allowed people like Ash of the Evil Dead. That was for college students with their home video who rented out a cabin, made a horror film. Now it's a cult classic. So it's things like that. Like
and then another great example is so I think indie filmmaking. I would also say I think in the late 70s, like early 80s, it really took off.
Oh yeah,
because the original Halloween, like that was like John Carpenter's first like big movie. And if I remember right, the budget was like $400,000 or something. Like that was cheap.
Well, I'll tell you one cheaper: Paranormal Activity. Guess how much it cost to make that film?
Oh man, I think I saw somewhere like what was it, $200,000 or something?
$10,000.
Oh, $10,000. Oh man, so
$10,000, and they made millions, like over 300 million back.
And what movie was this again?
Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activity.
It was just, it was people like us, independent filmmakers. They went to an investor, said, hey, we have a screenplay. We really want to make this film. And this investor's like, I can only give you $10,000. Like, that's as far as I'm willing to risk, you know?
Yeah.
They just used security cameras, rented like a house, like an Airbnb for, a month or two. And that's how they did their film. They just...
You see?
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
and
that is amazing.
That investor's probably like,
Because what you're making me think of, it's like, okay, so again, I'm going to go back to Sam Raimi here for a second, because you mentioned the Evil Dead movies. So, like, Sam Raimi, like, when he was hired to make the Spider-Man trilogy in the early 2000s, I remember Bruce Campbell, who had a candidate. So there's like a rule book with Sam Raimi films. One of them is he always has his best friend Bruce make a cameo. And he's cameoed in a lot of Sam's films.
Well, look at, oh my goodness, Tim Burton. He's
With,
had Johnny Depp and his wife.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp and his wife is always in every film.
Yeah, and with Sam, I remember, and when they were filming Spider-Man 2, Bruce Campbell was interviewed, and he said that his exact words were like, now Sam Raimi was the perfect choice for these films because you have a man who's used to working with nothing. But using the most cheap stuff you can think of, and now you give him real equipment and an actual budget. Like he's gonna make some darn good stuff. With this, because in Evil Dead, like you said, the film was on a budget of like $500,000 that Bruce, Sam, and another friend of theirs raised on their own, working the jobs they had at the time. Yeah. And they filmed at a real cabin in the middle of the woods. It's been destroyed now. I heard somewhere that like hillbillies set it on fire and burnt it down.
Probably, and that's another controversial thing too that even I experienced with just my film because it's a horror movie. Some people get kind of crazy when it comes to horror films, and they don't realize it's just another form of expression.
Yeah, exactly. And what's pretty funny though, the chimney from the original cabin survived the fire, and fans have been going to the film location. And
Take a
stealing.
brick.
Yeah, because Bruce talked about there was a couple of times at conventions where a fan would walk up and they would set a brick on the table. He's like, "What's this?" And the fan would be like, That is one of the bricks from the chimney.
When you sign it, yeah.
He's like, "Are you kidding?"
That's
like,
great. Yeah, because
ain't that crazy?
in his mind, he's probably thinking that was literally just some random cabinet. And me and my friends just like, never thought. But that's the thing. Like a lot of these great filmmakers, like Steven Spielberg. That's how he got his start, was in film festivals, and someone recognized him and was like, "Hey, let me give you this budget if you shoot this film for me." And then look how he blew up. So I think everyone has to start somewhere.
Exactly.
I think it's just you have to have that person that believes in you, and like in your team, like you have a team of people that you like to work with and that you all trust each other, and then you make something beautiful happen. And like a mother's sacrifice, I think this film has improved tremendously from Unlocked.
Okay.
Like quality wise.
So how so would you say? Like how did this one? How is this more of an improvement?
Because I've had experience now.
Oh,
like with Unlocked, I was kind of still new, kind of getting my feet wet. Now I kind of knew what to expect and what to do with this one, and I had a little bit of a budget. So I could have great costuming. I could hire professional actors. I could hire you and have you represent on my team as well, and just things like that, like have a makeup artist versus just being like, I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody just get together,
Oh, yeah. Like, Unlocked was a lot of fun to shoot. I remember it was super cold,
Because it was March.
Yeah, it was like late March, I think, or something. And I was at home for spring break, I believe it was, from school.
It was spring break, because I remember it was cold. It was kind of wet and rainy on one of the days. And I just remember Brad was like trying to hold up that big 6-foot scrim, and it was windy, and he was like...
yeah, he's like the wind's trying to take him
it
with
was,
it.
It was blowing, even like behind the scenes, the bloopers, you can see Brad just like being blown away and he's just cursing to the wind. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, but still, we had a lot of fun shooting that. Like that was a blast. Like that was the minute I experienced that I was like, oh, I want to do that again. And the minute you told me you were making a lot of sacrifice, it's like I would do it for free. Just tell me when and where. I will be there. I promise.
Well, I really wanted to pay my staff this time because I think as well as I know that sometimes as artists, you're not paid for your time, and people don't value your time. And it's like the knowledge we had to go to school for this too. I had to spend 6 years to know what I'm doing and more. And so, but people don't value it, so they don't want to put the money towards it.
Yeah, exactly. It's prime example is that, do you remember the controversy with Scream 6 last year?
I don't.
Okay, so Neve Campbell, who plays Sydney, right?
Okay,
She's the main girl in this franchise, like Laurie Strode in Halloween. Yes. So Neve Campbell plays Sydney Prescott, who's the main girl in every film. She was going to be in Scream 6, but they offered her a way smaller amount than she got in the previous films. And she tried negotiating, but Spyglass wouldn't bring it up. And she felt undervalued, so she dropped out of the project. So they had to rewrite the entire script and make an excuse to why she's not there for this one. Because in Scream 5, she's in it, but not for very long. Because Scream 5 was trying to introduce a new, younger cast to... It's like Sydney passing the torch over to a new, young
Same
audience.
Same with Halloween, I think. They kind of did that with...
Yeah. Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, because by the time they were filming Scream 5, Neve and David Arquette and Courtney Cox, they're the main trio.
Yeah.
They're getting up there in age. Like, Neve's like 48 now. David Arquette's like 52, and then Courtney Cox is like 49. So they were really getting up there in age. So in 5, they were trying to do a passing of a torch. And then so in Scream 6, that new young cast they introduced in 5 became the main characters for 6. Like Courtney Cox came back for this one, but Neve declined because again, she felt undervalued with the payment that they offered her.
Yeah, and I think I can see how people can view both sides, But I think too, again, if she felt undervalued, that's how she felt. Maybe, you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes, like who's getting paid what, you know, where budgets are having to be cut, those kinds of things. And but I just knew with my crew, I wanted everyone to be paid fairly.
Oh yeah, and that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, because as an artist, I would want to be paid. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like.
But I think too, like you said, you enjoyed working, and that you would even do it for free. And I think once you find your people, like sometimes you're like, yeah, I'll do you a favor. I don't mind helping out, you know, and because you want to see that other person succeed, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just like I don't know. I love this job so much.
I do too.
Like, when we were filming Mother's Sacrifice, I remember telling the cast and the other crew members, I'm like, if only this is my day job.
I know,
you
right?
know? Like,
well, maybe we can make Pana the next like cinema site. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody comes here to do their media production. I would love that.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
It would be, man. It would
Yeah,
be
I
so
know.
cool.
Like I think towns, like I love it when towns like really embrace that kind of thing. Like the town they filmed Breaking Bad in, for example. That's like that town's theme. Like,
Yeah.
they literally have tours now where they filmed all the Breaking Bad episodes. Like, it's all Breaking Bad merch everywhere. Like, this town has fully embraced that show because that is like their big like claim to fame.
Well, and that's a great point bringing up is this is why towns and communities should support the arts, because you never know when an artist or something will bring business to the town, like tourism. Tourism is a huge
Exactly.
income,
Yeah.
you know, so you can bring in a lot of income into your community. So it's kind of like, yeah, you know, if you make a film in your town and then it blows up as a cult classic, people are going to come to this town to have that experience. They want to have something similar to experience of that they watched on the film.
Yeah, exactly. And what's sad is, so Stranger Things, right? You know the high school they filmed at? It's getting tore down very soon. And I saw fans were like, why are you not turning this into like a tourist attraction? Like, do you realize how popular this show is?
Oh yeah, like if it was an Airbnb, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, can you imagine like letting them go inside and taking tours of the rooms they filmed? Like, why would you tear that down? Apparently they waited, so they're currently filming the 5th and final season.
Last
And
season.
they finished filming all the school scenes now, so they don't need it anymore. But again, I'm just kind of like, why would you not turn this into a tourist attraction,
Right.
like you said? Because it's a very popular location.
Right, people will travel to the thing that, like you said, Evil Dead. People are still going to a cabin that doesn't even exist
It's
anymore.
not even there anymore.
Right, but
you know?
it's to them. It's like it means something to them, and I think that's where you were asking about what is the importance of art. Essentially, I think that's what it is. Is art is another language.
Yes, definitely.
Everybody, like internationally, I watch a lot of international films. Of course, they have to have subtitles on, but even if there was no dialogue, you still can understand emotion, right? Sadness is sadness everywhere. Happy is happy. And so I think it's just a way to express not only your feelings as an artist, but reach other people's feelings. Like your movie about, you know, being on the spectrum at a college campus. Other people who are on the spectrum in college can relate to that because they know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah.
And things like that, you know. I don't know what people will relate to my movie with, but you never know. So,
You know, you said there's metaphors for things.
oh yeah.
But yeah. And so when you were so going back to story now for a second, so how long did it take you to write the story for this?
It's kind of sad actually. It took 6 months.
Oh, 6 months.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's not a long screenplay, as you know. It's only like 6 pages. But I did like the Stephen King method. I would write, and then I would put it away, and I wouldn't look at it for a while, and then I would come back and look at it and be like, oh my gosh, why did I write it like that? And then I'd go back and change it, and then I would step away from it again, and then like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, come back to it, and then read. Yeah.
Oh man, that is a great example because you're making me think of something. So I remember earlier when I mentioned what were top 3 things that I'm into. One of them is history, particularly ship history. And I remember I became a sub teacher late last year. And this past school year, I was a sub teacher. And I got to work with grades 2nd through 5th mostly. And I remember at Lincoln School, which houses the 2nd to 5th graders, they were learning about Titanic, which is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Oh yeah.
And I had to make I was like, I asked the teachers, can I please make a slideshow and show the kids? They were like, absolutely. I ended up giving my slideshow to almost every class in the building. And what's funny is, every time I presented it, I kept going back in there, okay, you know what? This information's not important. Because it's one of those things, you're such a big fan about this, you want to add in so much. You're like, you only got 40 minutes, you're going to have to cut stuff, you know. And just the other day, I went back into it, and I added in a new picture, marking the exact spots on the hull where the iceberg damaged it and what made it sink. So even now, I'm still
tinkering with
it. Like, that was, like, when I added that picture the other day, I haven't touched that in like a month.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's because like when you are in the moment, it's like your baby, right? You're like, oh, I love this, it's perfect. But then when you step back for a while and then you revisit it, it's like you're revisiting it through a stranger's eyes. You're like, oh, who wrote this? It's familiar because I wrote it. But at the same time, you're like, this doesn't seem right. And then you're able to critique yourself better. Sure. So that's why it kind of took a little bit longer, because I wanted it to be strong. I really wanted it to be strong and not just, quickly done. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great method, though. That's really good if you're like writing something. If you're struggling, just put it away for a little bit, and then say like, okay, don't look at it for like a month. Then pull it back out, and because you never know. Maybe you'll think of new things you didn't think of at the time.
Right. Well, I read a book from Stephen King called On Writing, and it's about his, it's a little bit about his life and then also his writing method. And that was one of his methods to a lot of his book novels that he wrote, is he'll write it and then leave it for 3 months and then come back and edit it. And so I kind of was doing that, where like take a few weeks off, then come back and be like, oh, well, that's not how I wanted that to go. And then like cut a whole page and rewrite it.
Yeah. Then you have George Romero, who still has not finished the Game of Thrones books. Like, fans have been waiting so many years for the next book.
It's like Hunter x Hunter. I'm a Hunter x Hunter fan. I don't even know if we'll ever get that manga finished. I don't know. Yeah,
you're still waiting on the next, like, the creator to release like the next issue.
He just September 4th. He's releasing the newest manga, but it took 5 years for one book. I know. So where everybody's like, is it going to be another 5 years? Well, we won't even be alive by the time it's the ending.
Yeah, I know. Like, waiting is hard.
It is hard. Yeah, it is.
Now I know. It's like, can you imagine like, back in like the 70s when Star Wars came out, like there were 3-year gaps in between the sequels. Can you imagine like having to wait that long to figure out like what happens next?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I know what that feels like, as Blumhouse did a brand new Halloween trilogy just a couple of years ago. The first one came out in 2018. Then the sequel was supposed to come out in 2020, and we all know what happened that year, COVID.
I know.
So they had to push it the following year. So I had to wait 3 years for Halloween Kills.
I know. And then not only that, but then when we had the strikes, with the Actors Guild and the screenwriting strikes, that really put a dent in filmmaking as well.
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff was put on hold for like ever.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I just know that filmmaking is a process, or anything's a process. But it's funny when people ask me, how long's your film? And I tell them it's maybe as a stretch 10 minutes long with everything added into it. I'm sure there's a little bit of disappointment, like, oh, it's only 10 minutes, but if it was a feature-length film, if it was just 60 minutes, it would have to take us a year it would take us months to film it. And I think people don't realize we did 2 days to film just 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, I've heard, like, heck, I remember Jenna Ortega said when they filmed the first season of Wednesday, so keep in mind, right, Wednesday season 1 was only 8 episodes.
Yes.
Each episode was about an hour.
Yep.
They filmed for 8 months.
Yeah.
Like,
I believe it.
8 months it took them just to film an 8-episode series.
Probably because of stunt work. There was a lot of like violence and fight scenes, and then you have just sets. They have to rebuild. If they don't get the shot, it's like, oh, put the statues back up there. We got to throw them over again. There's a lot that goes into it, and You know, it's like the fire scene we shot. We only had one shot, and then we didn't get a second chance.
I know. It's just one of those things like, oh man, can you imagine? I can't imagine. Like, can you imagine being under that pressure with an actual like big movie?
Oh my gosh, I would be freaking. I'd be like, we have to nail this. I was freaking out just with this low budget, shot. I was like, it all relies on me. Like, I'm the camera person, and I was like, oh my God, let's do this. And
yeah, I know, and thankfully it all worked out.
Yes.
In the end.
Oh, it beautifully.
Oh yeah, it was great. You guys would have to have been there to understand, but I cannot express this. The satisfaction of how that finale shot went, it was amazing.
Yeah, I remember just hearing people go, whoa, like that. Yeah.
It was great.
And Matthew Mankey, who has a landscaping business in town, he's also a fireman, like a volunteer firefighter. So he was there on set to make sure we had safety.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he helped us put it out once we got everything that we needed, and we had no problems at all.
No, it could not have been a more beautiful way to end the filming.
Oh yeah, for sure. So how did you contact the other crew members that were involved in this project? So, like, how did you meet them,
So, I went onto a Facebook group, and it's a Chicago actors Facebook group, and it has 20 to 50,000 members. And so I just put a post, says this is a paid gig for non-union work. It's a short film, blah, 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 blah. Like, send me your demo reel, your resume, and then I got I had about 35 people audition for the film.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I didn't know it was that many. Wow.
Yes. It took me about a month to go through every resume, every demo reel, just to narrow it down to our top 5. And then, then we just selected the 3 that we had.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
We did have one actress that was going to play the younger, but she was from Louisiana, and our time schedules just didn't match up. But there is plans in the future to maybe do a film with her as well, because you would love her. She loves filmmaking and acting and all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And
then I knew you, so obviously working together, that's how I selected you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I remember the minute you sent the message to me, asking me, there was no hesitation. The minute I saw the message, yes.
Yeah.
There was no thinking. The minute I saw it, yes, I'm in. I don't care how long or how difficult, I'm in.
Yes. Yeah.
I was so excited.
Well, and then I knew Brian K. Osborne, who was the costume designer. He is a fashion designer, and he loves horror movies. And we were kind of introduced through a mutual friend, and we never had the opportunity to work together until this film. And once he heard that, when I asked him, he was like, absolutely, and that was a lot of fun working with him, and it was seamless. He custom designed, he made the pattern himself for the costumes, which I thought was kind of cool.
I still remember you posting on Facebook the day the outfits were finished. I took one glimpse at them, and I was like, wow, these look
yes.
I'm talking official, all capitalized. They were perfection.
Yes. Yes. And I recommend him to anybody who needs tailored, a suit made dress, whatever, wedding dress, pageant dress, anything, costumes, he's the guy to do it. And then Zach, who was the assistant director, we went to the same film school. So we have worked together before, and he messaged me saying, hey, I need some more assistant director experience. Can I be your assistant director? I said, absolutely. This is how much I can pay you, though. Will you accept that? And he's like, yeah, no problem. Oh,
yeah. And by the way, shout out to him, though. I loved getting to work with him.
Yeah, he's so sweet.
He was such a nice guy.
I know. He's really sweet.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun getting to chat with him, getting to know him a little bit.
And he's laid back. That's what I like. It's he's laid back, and if I needed something I need you to go get this, boom, he went and got it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, very laid back guy.
Yeah.
And so, I believe you've already touched upon this just a little bit, but so were there other reasons why you decided to go with the actresses you picked?
Yes. So, when it came down to selecting the actresses, I knew that I needed them to look like they were a little bit related.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember you telling me, and didn't you tell me that it was kind of accidental. You didn't realize how similar they looked.
Yes,
Like
I
really?
selected Bronwyn first because I wanted her role was super important, so I needed to have her. Then as I was going through the maid roles, I selected Katlin because they had this like similar quality about them.
Oh, like face
Yes, like
structure.
facial. Yeah, when I saw their headshots, and then both of them acted so beautifully that I thought, okay, I gotta have these guys. And then Isabella, she, again with her facial features, I thought, okay, she looks like the younger version of Bronwyn. And I saw her demo reel, and she did a lot of stunts before, where she was rolling on the ground, and so I thought she's not afraid to get down and dirty, and a lot of her scenes she's going to be down on the ground, and so that's kind of why I selected each one for their not only their talents but also just how crazy they all looked alike, and even the actresses were like, you literally look like you could be my daughter.
I remember they were talking about that.
Yeah.
Like, it was just one of those little like twists of fate kind of thing.
It really was. Yeah, it was kind of eerie almost.
Yeah, I know, but man, okay, another shout out the actresses. Oh man, I had so much fun getting to work with them.
Yes,
like,
me too.
They were so nice and so like understanding. Like for me, it's like, have these people ever had a bad day in their lives? Like, they had smiles on their faces the whole shoot. There was no conflict, no problems. Like, we all got along.
I think we all, that's something that Brad, my husband, was even telling me that, like, it was a really nice set. He's like, everyone just had the goal and we all worked towards the goal, and nobody was, like you said, selfish or didn't want to do something or gotten little cat fights with each other. It was just like, we all worked together. And even like the makeup artist, she walked with us carrying water bottles.
Yeah.
She didn't have to do that. That
She
wasn't
didn't
in
have
her
to.
contract, but she was like, she could just see that we were hot and dehydrated and like, let me walk with, and the hairstylist, she didn't have to go to Walgreens and buy more of that dye for Isabella's hair. I feel like everyone went out of their way.
Oh yeah, I know, taking that extra step. And I remember, like, I ran water out to the young actress when you were filming that scene of her running. Like, I was like, I'll take it out to her, because again, I like taking that extra step.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's like, you can't be like, well, it's not my contract, I'm not gonna worry about it. Like, I don't like that. That's very narcissistic in my opinion.
And even Brad, who wasn't really, I would say, like, somebody on the team, officially, he was even there helping, like, you holding the recorder.
Yeah,
so
he would hold it so I could have both hands
on the
pole.
boom. Yeah.
And then when we were filming the fire scene, he was holding out the giant light because the sun was almost down.
Right, because and he had to make sure that it wasn't, the wind or something wasn't going to take it off. So it's just like things like that. It's just nice to have that kind of help.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Shout out to Brad though. Like he's Brad's hilarious. I'm telling you, I wish we had a
put him
blooper
through
reel.
so much, man.
Like,
oh gosh.
Yeah. Like, dude, Brad's commentary throughout this whole thing. It was like we were making a parody film on how to make a movie.
Yeah.
Like, I remember one time he kept playing. One of my favorite things he did, he kept playing tricks on you. Oh, I forgot to hit the record button.
Oh, I
Sorry.
know. Or like we'd say, quiet on the set, and then you hear Brad's feet like, stop, and we're all looking at him like, stop talking.
Yeah, you can hear him
moving.
talking in the background.
Oh my gosh, that guy, I swear.
Yeah. I had to tell you, Katlin, I saw him click the button. He's messing with it.
I know.
Thank
I'm like,
you.
Brad, stop doing that to me.
But yeah, oh man, that was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure if you interviewed Brad, he'd have a totally different perspective on the film. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was great. And okay, so I already know the answer to this question, and I'm very excited to ask you this because I was there. I already know the answer, but our audience does not. Okay, so we already answered the first half, which was how long was the shoot, which theoretically was kind of 3 days.
It was 3.
Because we had 2 days filming on location. And then I remember you mentioned to one of the actresses the following day you had to record some stuff.
Yeah, because we shot Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday morning I had to do Isabella's scene, her ending scene.
Okay.
And so there wasn't dialogue though. It was just because it's what we recorded with Denise was going to go over that shot. So
Okay.
But yeah, we had to get up early, get her there before they all left back for Chicago. And
Yeah.
So yeah, but we got the scene and stuff, but it was, yeah, I guess it was 3 days, wasn't it?
So theoretically, if we were to add up, it was about 3 days worth.
Yeah.
And okay, so here's the second half. Over those 3 days, were there any problems?
Oh, absolutely. The very first day, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it.
Like people, you're not gonna believe this. Just the stuff that happened the first day we were out there. Like the one that blew my mind was like, okay, it's night, literally 48 hours before. Okay, it's nice and quiet out here.
Yes, like there's nothing.
It's peaceful. The day we go out there to shoot, what happens?
So there's like some kind of construction going on where every time either a tractor or some vehicle would back up and go beep, beep, beep,
yeah.
all through the dialogue scenes. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And not only that, it was making the dogs out on like a farm. There's like 4 or 5 dogs barking crazy. I mean, nonstop. A jet flies over us, and then there was these people in a gator with like music, and they would stop and stare, and we're just like, guys.
Yeah, and I remember they drove all the way down. I remember they came back. I remember we were filming a scene. I look over. They're slowly going like 5 miles per hour.
Engine. We can hear the engine, guys.
Yeah, like they're just watching us slowly going by, and I'm capturing all of this, by the way.
Yes.
You know, just
yeah, it was like I just was looking at everyone like, is this real life right now? Because so using what we have available, I was using natural light, and we were shooting in the evening. We had maybe 2 hours total to get the shots we needed, and I was like, we're losing time. I felt so bad. Like even the actresses were like, I cannot believe what is happening right now. And I think even Brad and Bobby went to go
they
see.
got in the truck to see, and they kept going. Then the road just stopped.
It stopped.
So wherever it was happening was so far away. It's like the sound waves were carrying over to us.
Luckily, in post, I was able to eliminate any like faint beeping or barking or engine sounds.
Okay.
So we don't hear it in the final.
Yeah.
But I just remember listening back, I was like, oh my gosh. It was literally a nightmare. I was like, I'm in a nightmare right now. I'm cursed. Somebody cursed me.
Yeah, exactly. How ironic. It switches.
Right, it switches. Somebody cursed me, Yeah, that was probably the toughest day. And I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was almost like, am I just dreaming I'm filming this? Or am I actually...
it's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
The shoot's tomorrow. You're sleeping right now. Like, But, oh, man. But it was just like, again, of all the times, why now?
Why now? Yeah. Isn't that how it goes with filmmaking? Everybody always says, who's ever made a film, they're like, whatever will go wrong, will go wrong.
At the worst possible time, too.
Right. Well, it's just like my memory card going out.
Yeah.
Right when we're doing the fire scene, and I was like, oh my God. And the other memory card I had, it was like too large of a file for the recorder. But luckily I was able to get sound bites of fire that matched the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again,
quick what goes
save.
Wrong? Quick save, but it's just like, if you're making a movie for the first time, just expect something to go wrong. It's normal.
Yeah, it's normal. You know, a prime example, I remember when you were talking about Steven Spielberg, like when they were filming Jaws, like the mechanical shark, like the crew, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it actually caused them, in the original screenplay that was written, the shark had way more appearances. But what happened, the shark kept malfunctioning because when you put the shark, it was the salt water. Mm-hmm. They tested it out in a pool. Yeah. It was fine. But there was something about the salt water that kept making it malfunction. So Spielberg, he came out with the idea that actually fixed the movie was to imply with the camera that the shark is nearby. You don't physically see it, but it's there. And I think that alone is what made it the first blockbuster.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's why some of the great filmmakers are great, is because they know how to think on their feet. Mm-hmm. Because they were used to not having these big budget productions. They were used to being like, all right, we got to switch up the camera angle now, and that's how we can sell the idea. It's kind of like with I guess on a mother's sacrifice, instead of like physically, well, I can't give it away. I won't say. I won't say, but there was a scene where we had to imply something happened.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
we don't actually see it, but you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you're implying, but not like outright, like, here I am. You know,
yeah, because you can't just... I think that's another thing with some new screenwriters is they think they have to tell the audience what's happening, and you got to give the audience more credit. They know what's going on. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, and that's one thing, you know, oh man, that's a good example. So that's a good point to make. And an example is that, so this is kind of random, but so a couple years ago, do you know director Zack Snyder?
Oh, yeah.
So he directed a lot of the DCU films.
Yes.
Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League.
Yeah.
So, long story short, he had a death in his family right when he was filming Justice League. So he had to leave the project. Director Joss Whedon replaced him, and we got the Joss Whedon version of Justice League. But Snyder had filmed like 4 hours of material, and only like 2 hours of it, or not much of that 4 hours, was used in the Whedon cut. So then the fans, since 2017, kept pushing, okay, we want the Zack Snyder version of this, which was 4 hours. So in 2021 it was, the Snyder cut was released, and I liked it at the time. But I went back, and there's a YouTube channel I watched where these guys do commentary and they review films.
Yeah.
I watched them, they did commentary, watching the whole Snyder cut. And there was so much stuff in there that could have been cut. Yeah. Like, there were scenes of, like, the actors walking for, like, 5 minutes. Like, because Snyder seems to have this idea that if we don't see the character making the walk all the way to the room where the next scene's going to happen, the room just doesn't exist. Like,
yeah, no, your brain's able to put 2 and 2 together.
Exactly, like Snyder. You can cut the walk sequence. We know, okay, we're the next scene. Like, we don't need to see these long 10-minute shots of the actors making the journey to the next scene.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like once they walk out the door, you know they're not in that room anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, our brains can fill in the gaps. Like, we don't have to physically see it.
Yes, it's called context. It's like when you're reading a book, and if at first you might not understand what's going on, but if you keep reading, then all of a sudden the context clues happen, and you're like, oh, now I get what's happening. Yeah.
We're at point A, now we're at point B.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And oh man, now I think I might know the answer to this one, but what was your favorite scene to shoot?
So I think you might be surprised, actually.
Okay, I might be, because I have one in my head, but I might be wrong, so.
So I really enjoyed the wood scene of Katlin running.
Oh, really?
Yes,
okay.
Because...
Okay.
I like the fire scene.
Okay, that's what I thought your answer was going to be that.
You can't top that fire scene, but it was just so nerve-wracking. Like, it was almost hard to enjoy because I'm like, I have to move fast, I have to think fast, I have to, like, if I can't burn the camera, and so, but the running scenes I loved because of how you got to see a clip of how seamless our shots were to make that edit just, like, perfect. Mm-hmm. It's just like you can just see her seamlessly going frame to frame to frame, and I loved that in the lighting, and she looked great. And so I think that was my favorite scenes to shoot because we got to be kind of creative with that. Yeah,
I remember you showed me, like, after you finished filming, like, you had to do the running sequence a couple of times. Like, I remember you were filming the one, it was a distance shot across that small lake.
Yeah.
And I remember you were struggling a little bit because you were trying to loosen your camera up just right, so
it didn't like jag.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you got it. Just took a couple of tries.
Yes, poor Katlin, bless her heart, she had to run in that heat. Ooh.
Yeah, wearing that outfit.
Yeah, she had leggings on too, which makes it even hotter.
Yeah, exactly. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we actually had to get creative with that sequence because the wind kept blowing her cap off.
I know.
So I remember the makeup artist, she came in clutch and she used a pin to
secure it.
To secure the hat to, like, her hair so the wind wouldn't blow it off while she was running.
Right, until she was ready to, like, ready
to take it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that sequence is definitely a very fun one.
Yeah.
Like I remember you showing me, and I'm like, this is really good.
I know. Well, that's what Caitlin said. She said she even complimented me. She said that's really good. She's like, you have an eye for the camera, which made me feel good. As a photographer, I hope so.
Yeah, definitely.
But
that makes you feel good. Okay, I'm doing this right.
Right,
If they're telling me this, I'm doing something right.
Yeah, because I trust them who have been on lots of sets before to. I trust if they're giving me the compliment, it's a real compliment and not just like you said, like a family member going, "Oh, that's good, honey."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think my favorite for me, I really enjoyed the sequence that we shot, the first scene we did with the older actress.
Oh, Denise, yes.
Yeah, with Denise. I had a lot of fun with that one. Like, getting to see her recite those lines, like I'm not going to give away what we were filming, but let's just say she's commanding someone to say something else.
Yeah.
And she had this controlling, like, you have to do this,
yes.
Oh,
the dialogue scene.
Yes,
that was. Oh, they were good together. They worked well together.
Yeah, they really did. Like she was she was in charge, man. Like she got it. Like
she did. She was in her role.
She got it down.
Yeah.
And oh man, I remember one take. Remember when she accidentally fell? Yes. Oh man. So what happened was, so I'll just say she leaned back too far when she was giving an action, and she lost her balance.
Yes.
And thankfully, they were in a grassy area. There was nothing hard on the ground, so thank goodness.
And she caught herself, and that's another thing too. Like that was probably something we all had to learn on set too, is working with someone who was diabetic as well.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. It took me a while to catch on. I remember your mom was like literally on the sidelines with like a phone, keeping track of her blood sugar and everything.
Yes, because my mom's an RN, so she knew what to do and how to help. But I think also it's kind of neat to have such a diverse cast.
Yes.
When you think about it, like
I agree.
We have it's just so diverse in every possible way, and I love that about something that I'm a part of.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, for me, that was definitely my favorite scene.
I can't wait for people to see that.
I know, people are going to love this.
I hope so. I mean, I'm sure everybody's always a critic, but I hope overall people are proud of it, that it came from Pana. And
yeah.
I hope it wins maybe just one. If it can just get one award, I'll be glad. Come on, throw me a bone.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think? Out of all the stuff that we shot, what do you think was the hardest? I think for me, it could possibly be the fire sequence. Because again, we only had one try, and that's it. I feel like that alone ups the ante.
It was. I think and just the danger of it. Because I remember when I was coming around the other side, I was wanting to get like a different perspective of the shot, and then it shifted the flames, and it was making it super big. And I remember thinking, are my eyebrows were off because it just came on, and we had to back up because it grew so big.
And I remember, I'm not kidding you, folks. Right before we started recording, you were actually showing me some shots, and one of the ones you showed me was that very thing of the wind blowing it your direction. But you managed to capture something that was pretty sick.
Yeah, compositionally, it's balanced really well, and that was again a fluke. That was just me trying to get a different shot, and then it's shifted, and
Oh yeah,
maybe
that was
the magic of filming, I guess, or witches.
The magic of filmmaking, good old witchery.
Yes, exactly.
So, what is your editing process with this? What do you think is the goal at the end of the day with the way you edit this thing? That you want that steady flow, right?
Yes, I think it needs to flow nicely, have a good flow. And there was a couple issues with the editing that I had to make creative liberties to change. Which ironically ended up working better, I think, but it wasn't the original concept I had when I was writing the screenplay. It wasn't exactly how I thought out of it, but overall I had to change some editing styles in one scene, and then I had to rearrange some clips as well. So I'll have to show you. I can't say it on here, but I'll show you what I mean by that. But
yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. And again, that's another prime example. It's like what sucks is when you the film's done, you have everything filmed, And unfortunately, a lot of films, you have to cut stuff sometimes.
You do. You have to cut stuff. Sometimes you have to rearrange stuff. And then I used Adobe Premiere Pro to edit the film, and I used you were noticing about the color grading, and I used a software called Color Grade Cinema, and it's like what Disney uses and Netflix and Hulu, and it's kind of like an extension you can put into Adobe. And you would love it, Christian. It's amazing what you can do. You can isolate everything, like colors, exposures, things like that. But I would say the hardest part with editing was just the surprises that came along that I wasn't expecting.
Oh, yeah. I totally get that. I mean, it's like, you'd be surprised when you'll find, because when you're going back and editing something, you'll catch something like you didn't see when you were reviewing it the first time.
Yeah, or like making sure lips are lined up with the speech. That's like, there was one, it was like literally a millisecond it was off, and I had to like really expand it and shift it slightly to make sure it was right on point.
Yeah, if that were me, like, why?
I know.
Why did it have to,
and all the rendering, and just like rendering it just so you can see it in 4K instead of like a little bit of a lag because you have to see it, so it's a process.
It's a very long, stressful process, but thankfully the reward is very worth the stress. It's
something I'm proud of, and again, hopefully as it gets out there more and more, hopefully it gets a little bit more recognition, but we'll see. You never know.
Yeah. And so, that was really good. That was a really good question. And so this is what I was wondering. Do you have any ideas yet on when you're going to plan on premiering this thing?
We're thinking September.
September, okay.
We're thinking after Labor Day.
Okay.
So that way it's kind of like before spooky season, like it kind of gets people ready for spooky season, because I feel like after Labor Day people are going to start getting into the Halloween spirit, and so we didn't want to do it in October where there's like a lot of after school programs going on, trick-or-treating, things like that, and it starts to die off into Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So we thought, okay, maybe late September would be perfect for the premiere, which I still got to get a hold of Erica to look at the Bruin Hope. I'd like to do it at Bruin Hope.
Okay, really? Okay.
So what we're thinking for the premiere is the middle section being like where we have all of our props, like we'll have the candle, some pictures, we'll have the actual costumes on mannequins and all of our sponsors listed like on banners.
Oh man, I love this already. That's
I know,
cool.
having the posters. Okay. So like when you walk in, you see like the banners and then the mannequins there with the gowns, the black candle. I love that. So that people have like kind of like a museum, like you're looking at all. And then upstairs, I don't know if she's changed the upstairs much, but it was kind of like cathedral looking up there.
Yeah, it did.
How cool would it be to have the screen on the altar up there, and then having candles and like.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm literally.
You're visually,
I'm visually seeing this in my brain, and it's I like it.
Well, and then Erica and her crew, they can make kind of witchy cocktails and.
Oh yeah.
At the bar there.
At the bar there. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I love Bruin Hope. It's just such a beautiful addition to our town.
It really is. And honestly, it's something classy. We needed.
Yeah.
We really needed something like that again.
And I just want to support Erica and AMP and the message that they're putting out there and the support that they do for the autistic movement.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And so far, how are you feeling with the outcome of how this project is turning out? I know it's not all the way done yet. What are your current feelings?
A little anxious.
Anxious? Oh, yeah.
I'm anxious
That's
to
normal.
See
That's
how people are
normal.
going to react. Because I don't want to let anyone down, or disappoint anyone. But I'm also excited for the music, because I feel like music adds another layer.
Oh yeah, it's like Jaws, for example. If you took the theme out of it, it's it's not the same.
Yeah,
it's not scary anymore.
Or like birds, It's I'm excited to see what Jake comes up with, because something that I think is neat or proud too, or the feelings that I'm having is, sometimes when you make a film, you just grab music online that's royalty free that you can use, but this is like an original soundtrack. Which is really cool in my opinion. I'm like, what? This is like Mother Sacrifice original soundtrack. We could have even that music playing
Yeah.
in the premiere, like
And-
while we're just mingling and
Yes, that'd be very cool too.
right?
Yeah.
I know. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I'm just like, come on, Jake. I'm just so ready to hear it now. But I don't want to like be like, when's it ready? When's it ready?
You know, you're making me think of like the Tom Petty song, "The waiting is the hardest part."
It is. It so is.
Yeah.
Well, and people even in the community who've sponsored me on Seed and Spark, or they're just like wanting to buy a ticket to the premiere. They're like, when's it ready? When's it happening? And I'm like, I don't know yet.
I can't answer that yet.
Like, this would be what I would prefer to happen, but I don't know if it will.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Oh man, that's great. And we're already at the last question, folks. And what are your future plans after this, Katlin? You gave us a little glimpse. You're thinking of possibly working with that actress from Louisiana.
Yes.
Anything else of that nature, or what?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I do have. I'll announce this on your podcast because I have not told this to anybody. But I have a new song coming out August 10th.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad you said that. Okay, before we go any further on that, folks, so she's actually made a couple of her own music videos.
Yes.
So I remember I've only seen one. It was one of you dancing.
Confetti?
I think it was like.
Was it confetti?
Yeah, there was confetti, right? I think were there girls with like yellow shirts on?
That's
or something?
confetti. That's confetti.
That's confetti.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I saw that one.
And then there's Light This Candle.
Light This Candle. Okay.
Which I have exciting news with that as well. But
So what can you tell us about this new one that you've done?
it's kind of going back to the confetti roots.
To the confetti roots.
But it's a little bit more tough.
More tough.
It's a little bit more tough, a little bit more like girl crush concept type thing.
Okay, that's very interesting. So is it all filmed and ready to go, or have you not filmed it yet?
No, I haven't filmed it yet. I have to. Right now, I'm waiting on the vocals to be remixed.
Okay.
And then once the vocals are remixed, I'll kind of put it out there and start filming the music video. But I think if I were to do another film, I love horror movies. That's just who I am.
Yeah, I am too. Like horror, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest film genre ever.
And
like,
people hate on it so much because I think the reason why they hate on it so much is because being scared, like, the jump scares, it makes you scared. But if you can look past the jump scares, there's such great messages behind those movies. I mean, it's still a story. But I think this time I might try a different genre
Okay.
of a screenplay, something that's more like drama, family,
Okay.
inspirational type.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, you can do a lot with that.
Yeah, so I think I might push myself out of my genre that I normally do and see if I can do something like with that,
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's very exciting. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be about the wrap-up of covering a mother's sacrifice and getting to get inside the head of Mary Katlin.
Yes, hopefully it wasn't too crazy.
Oh, no, not at all. You have no idea how fun it is to get in the chat with you, again, getting to do this. Like this, I've been anticipating this for the last couple of days, and getting to interview you, like, this is awesome.
Well, I'm glad
so excited.
I just feel honored that you wanted me to be on your podcast. I think that's amazing, and I love it. So,
well, thank you so much, and that means a lot, seriously. And again, it's always a pleasure getting to work with you and getting to chat with you. You're like one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Well, thank you, and I think you have host skills, sir.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, like MC, you got the MC skills. So I think so.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this recording. I just want to personally say thank you to Katlin for accepting my invitation.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course, a pleasure. And I hope you guys enjoyed this recording, and I hope you learned some pretty cool stuff about the making of a mother's sacrifice. And again, I was extremely honored that I had the opportunity to work with Katlin on this project, and I'm very looking forward to September to see the world's reaction to this when it gets released.
I know. Come to the premiere. If you live in our local area, show up and we'll introduce ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, so until next time, my name is Christian Taylor,
and I'm Mary Davis.
And you are listening to the Tales of Music and Film.